Hey, Jono. My name is Vander Puchert, and this is a very special episode of Finding Frequency. Jonathan, how you doing, my man?
I'm good.
So, for you listening to this, Jonathan is one of my dearest friends. I haven't known him for that long. It's 4 years, right, Jono? 4 years
About
is a fair amount of time,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
My brother from another mother. That's what I call you. So, just a bit of context for you listening to this. So, I've mentioned Jonathan a few times on Finding Frequency. He's a dear friend, someone who influences me all the time, puts me on the straight and narrow, but also someone who is way too humble. I've asked him a few times to give me some of his thoughts for Finding Frequency, and then he says yes, but then continues to do his own thing anyway. So, Jonathan, just to give everybody a bit of context, like, where are you from and like, how did we meet?
We did meet during an event called UX Poland. At that time, you were talking about your experience as an admin in South Africa,
Yeah.
and I felt like we had things to talk about. So I reached out to you after that event, and I think a few months later, you came to my city. So I was living in Krakow at that time,
Yeah.
and you hit me up. You told me, "Hey, how about taking a drink?" And yes, that's it.
Yeah. And then you got stuck with the South African for the rest of your life. That's how
Voila.
we roll, man. But I mean, that's actually always an interesting point because at this UX Poland event, when I came to Poland the first time, I met my wife and I met one of my best friends. So that is extraordinary in its own. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Jono, is that we've kind of gone through a whole journey with this pandemic. We've spoken about it so many times. We've actually put our own podcast on a little bit of a break because there's so much complexity in things we had to deal with. And I think even in our friendship, we've gone through all ups and downs. But that's not what I want to talk about in Finding Frequency. In Finding Frequency, I believe that there's always something extraordinary, even if it's really small in your daily life. But I wanted to also throw it out to you, Jonathan. Like, what is it that you find extraordinary about your day to day? What is the simple thing that kind of keeps you going?
Um, my partner. That's that's it, man. It's right now we have been both extremely stressed, like everybody else on this damn planet, right?
Yeah,
And despite all of that, we keep going, and we take each day the way it comes to us. We don't try to overthink it, and we try to make the most of it. So I feel extremely blessed to have somebody that is my partner and my best friend at that point. So yeah, that's extraordinary. That's
yeah.
extraordinary.
I agree with that. I mean, I've met Anetka a few times. She is definitely amazing. You're a lucky man, sir.
I am
Um, you are very lucky. But then also you have me as your friend, so you're like double lucky
double lucky, double
because I'm
lucky.
so I'm so humble, you know. Also, I think the one thing that I wanted to also share here, and I always share things about my son on Finding Frequency, is many time we will talk and I'll tease him and I'll say to Francie, I don't have friends. I don't have friends here. Like, and I'll like refer to myself and then pointing out that he's got a lot of little friends. And he'll always turn to me, but Tata, you've got Guy, because he calls Jonathan the guy. You got
Yeah,
the guy,
the guy,
Jonathan. Yeah, the guy. And also this
the
morning when we
guy.
were walking to the kindergarten, because that's one of the reasons I'm late with our call today, is like we walked to the kindergarten. I said, listen, Francie, I'm going to talk to my friend Jonathan today. And he says to me, yeah, that's good. That's good. But he's also my friend. So, Jonathan, I wanted to like just point out that Francie also believes that you're his friend. He
Fair
considers
enough.
you, Buzz Lightyear, and Woody as his mates. So you're in
Uh,
good company, my friend.
yeah, I'm honored to say the least. Next to heroes, I have the whole stories in my DVDs in background. So thank you, friends.
Great, Jonathan. Thank you for doing this, my friend, and thank you for listening to this. But now Jonathan and I need to go and record an episode of Block Thinking.
See you. And listen to Finding Frequency. It's very good. It's very good.
Thanks, Jono. Hey, Jono! We're back. Finding Frequency. We're not dead. We're still rolling. How you doing, mate?
Everything is all right. I am very happy that I'm able to say that in the middle of a pandemic. It's been, pandemic and everything else that happened during the last year. It's been a ride, and not one of those simple rides, not the one from, that was the Disneyland ride, that was the Universal Studio ride. That's it.
So much have changed since we last did our episode, and also just to give context is that we actually, when the pandemic hit, we did 1 or 2 episodes talking about some of our experiences, but then we also decided to put the podcast on hold because from my perspective, and John, I would like to hand it over to you as well to make a comment about it. And this is also not what this episode's about, by the way. But I thought that a lot of things were being said by very intelligent people. A lot of tips were being thrown out, a lot of lessons, a lot of virtual events, a lot of content, too much. And I think in our space, we decided to listen rather than add more to the conversations going on, which might have been a good thing or a bad thing. But how did you feel? We kind of put this thing on hold a little bit. What is kind of your motivation around that, Jono?
I know that after the last episode, which was pretty heavy in terms of content, exactly what you said. There was a lot of content throughout by very intelligent folks. In my case, I decided to, step back from the news, from pretty much everything else, because I realized that, it was only causing troubles when it comes to my mental health, watching the news every day, saying, okay, what's next today? And at the end of the day, what can I do? I did what I could. We discussed. I shared with my friends. I did a post on LinkedIn that I probably started to not regret, but that caused me troubles also. And then I did what I do best. I started to study seriously again. And I found a lot of joy in that. I reworked my productivity process. So if you have been listening to Block Thinking, you know that John and his productivity process, it's a never-ending story.
He puts me to shame all the time. Damn it, man.
I did a lot of soul searching also, and I have to say that it resulted in where I am today, and I feel great today. I feel absolutely, I feel balanced, first of all. I feel that I have the handle on my career. I know what I want to do exactly. I knew, but now I have, I have all the little steps, I'm figuring it out. I have a long-term plan. I have the support of my family and my friends. I'm in a great place. I'm in a good place right now.
And Jonathan, I think what is interesting, I wanted to echo back something that you shared in a sense of, working on yourself and all these things, and also mental health. I think the one thing that we kind of touched on, and we didn't directly address it, but then it became even one of the reasons we went on a bit of a hiatus with the podcast is that I think the one thing that we don't always realize is this pandemic is having a huge impact on mental health. Even with you listening to this, you might not realize it. I kind of feel it from time to time. I still count myself as super lucky. I have these certain practices that I try and do to keep my spirits up. I have a wonderful family around me, but I wake up sometimes 3 o'clock at night, not in a cold sweat, stressing about something specifically, but I can feel that my sleep patterns aren't working right. I think we are all going through it. And the only thing that you can really do, not that I'm a psychologist or anything, but is to work on yourself. That's a thing that you can change.
Yep.
And I think what you've shown me is that you've really slowed down, which is important. You can't work on yourself while the plane is flying, as a term that, or a analogy that a lot of corporate people always, we have to change the plane's engines while we're flying. That doesn't work. Okay, planes fall out the sky. You have to slow down, reflect, take stock, and I've seen you doing it. I think it's still early days for you probably, but it feels like you are gaining the traction again. And not that we just shut down the podcast because you had a mental break. You didn't. You actually went into a big project. You did some crazy product work, but then also slowed down a little bit, right? And I actually want to talk a little bit about that crazy product work because I've been lucky enough to see you talk about it in a recent event in Berlin, virtual, like we all have to do these days.
Right.
Can you mention the client? Can you talk about that for a little bit? Like, because you've lived the product manager startup life for a fair amount of time since we did the last episode.
Yeah. I have. So when was our last episode? It was around May. Something
it was like
that.
BLM time, right? When
BLM time. So
it
was May. It was May.
Yeah.
I've been working with that. So around that time, I've been working with that company Unema for 1 year at that time. I'm still working with them on a more limited, with a more limited capacity. However, I did the bunch of my work with that company between basically around that BLM time, around March.
Yeah.
So it started in March, finished around, I don't know, that flux around September, something like that. And I had to set up a full marketing team. We set up.
Just a bit of context. Sorry, Jono. Like I don't want to cut you off in your
please.
train of thought. Just context for people listening is that Unema is kind of an e-commerce platform, not kind of is, and the specific market that you were talking is Senegal, Africa.
Senegal.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add that because I don't think
that's a good point. Yeah, it's been a while. Unema is a market, is in the market of goods, of retail, in online retail in West Africa and specifically Senegal, because this is where they are headquartered.
Super interesting, man. I smile every time you talk about it.
Yeah. And what happened is that during COVID, it's very difficult to get stuff. It was very difficult and it is still very difficult to get stuff. For those of you who don't really know how the retail market works, one of the main concepts is that you need to secure containers. Containers, to send goods from the US or from Europe.
Yeah.
But because of that COVID situation, containers came at a premium, are still coming at a premium. Yesterday, there was, 4 days ago, the Wall Street Journal published an article. We might put it in the comments about that very fact, about the fact that now to have place in containers, it's extremely expensive. The alternative is flights, and flight cost went out, I think something like 100%. It's very expensive to ship stuff. So
the supply chain.
Exactly. And another aspect of COVID is that you have a fixed amount of containers around the world, and shippers, they were limited in capacity, and most of that capacity was I will say reserves to wealthy countries because it's a
Yeah.
marketplace who can pay half stuff, which means that to get any sorts of thing in poorer countries, South America, Africa, it is very difficult to this day. It is very difficult.
Yeah.
So we had to figure out, okay, how do we survive? Clearly put, how do we survive? We are selling things, but we don't have those things, and it
Yeah.
takes
Where's the
forever.
things? Yeah.
So we pivoted. I mean, that was planned, but we pivoted toward a marketplace much earlier than what we thought, and it has been a great experience. I've been
And
involved with an amazing team there. People were super motivated. It's been good. It's been good. I gained a ton of experience about the field of e-commerce, retail, SEO,
yeah.
sales, all of it. So I value that experience. I appreciate it, and yeah, and the company is still alive, so I guess it's a success.
Yeah, you did a good job there. And just for clarity, like when you say pivoted to a marketplace, is that just for my understanding, and for the other people who are like me, who are sometimes a bit slow, the marketplace is like what Amazon's doing, where you actually open it up to other vendors to come in, right, and then sell off
Like
your
exactly,
platform.
exactly
Right.
like Amazon, like Allegro.
Okay, great.
What we realized was that we were not the only people stuck with the COVID situation. There were a lot of folks living in Senegal, living in the country around Senegal, Mali, and they had goods and they couldn't sell their goods because of you know
Yeah.
you couldn't get out as easy as that. You couldn't sell. Markets were closed. So we have a platform, right? So how about proposing them to sell their goods on our platform? And there are a lot of logistical issues to manage because you need to think that a lot of those folks are unbanked. So how do you manage that? How do you
Yeah.
manage delivery? So we had challenges. We had to adapt also the platform. It's something we always wanted to do, but that was planned for 2022,
Yeah.
2023, something like that. Not as early because you need to have a lot of market share before starting a platform because what you're selling is trust. At the end of the day, people are going to buy through your platform because they know, okay, this brand is solid. I can buy that through them, and I know I won't be scammed. Right? This is why
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Poland
That's
use
a
Allegro.
trust. Yeah.
That's why people are using Amazon Marketplace because if something goes wrong with your item from Amazon Marketplace, you know that you will have the ability to send it back
Yeah.
and it will be fine. So we did that. It's still work in progress. There is still a lot of education to do. It's a very manual process because you need to contact companies, and we are creating a curated marketplace, so we don't allow anybody to sell on the platform. So I've been involved with that project. I mainly helped aside of experience design, of course, but mainly with building the teams. So building the
Yeah.
marketing team.
I wanted to remark on that because I feel like you went in as a designer, as a kind of
Initially,
experienced
yes, product
designer,
designer, exactly.
kind of. But the thing is, like, I mean, you say product designer, but yes, but now, like, listening to how you talk, because I want to push you into the behind the scenes.
I
But
see
when I
what you're
listen to
doing.
you, but when you're talking, you're talking about market, business, how the service and products relate to the customers. And I must say, dude, like that's one thing I've seen change is that you really do start to sound like a product manager, and I feel
Yeah, I
like that's
mean, that's what
you've kind of
I
been
mean,
pushed into that world, right?
I've been living between worlds for the past decades. Because before being a product designer, right, I was a BA and a business analyst, sorry.
Yeah,
And before being a BA, I was a business intelligence developer. And PM is basically a blend of all those worlds. When you're a PM, you live between
Yeah.
business, design, and technology. Those are
And
your three planets, I would say. So you need to be able, those three planets, you have people with different languages and different cultures. And you, as a PM, you're supposed to be able to speak their language and more than that, make them work together. So
yeah,
they need all to trust you. That's what I bought at Unima. I did that also when I was at BBH under the business analyst name, but now I realized it was exactly the
strange how this
same
works,
stuff.
man. But dude,
And
also,
and yeah,
sorry, man, I'm like talking over you. It's
no,
been a
go.
while. Sorry. It's yeah, I need to get my microphone and interview etiquette in order here, guys. The thing is, I just want to throw in this one comment, which is interesting. Like seeing you go through the experience with Unima. Recently, I did a live stream because I'm messing around on LinkedIn with Jeff Parks, a mutual friend of ours, and you're going to be joining one of those very soon with him. And to get him on, and there's a point to this little tale, is that to get him on the stream, I also had to go and do a bit of research about his background. And he was a content creator like way before I even thought of doing a podcast or anything. And I tracked down an interview he did, and I can't remember. It was with some kind of mature company. I don't know why I can't remember the actual company now. It's like, was it Yahoo or something? I can't remember.
Okay, yeah.
But he was doing an interview with this guy in 2007. 2007. Right? It's like for me, it's like eons ago, right? And their topic was how UXers are migrating their roles and becoming product managers. And I was kind of so shocked about it, dude. Like, because honestly, with you and me working on product development days for a couple of years, and like product management wasn't really on my radar, even though some of the things that I've done has touched on that role and you've kind of dropped into it now. But I thought it was like a new conversation, and it's actually like a really old thing that's on the radar and being discussed and being thought about like for a long time.
Yeah, those were like in our field with UX, those were always existed. We put a nomenclature, an organization, I would say, more than a nomenclature above those. But you always had that guy that was more or less working with people from all fields. They might be part of the UX team, but you had that UXer, you had that designer who was more, who had appetence with technology. That guy was, oh, you know the developers, go explain them. Or, oh, you know the business guys. Go talk to the business guys. You always had that guy in companies. And now the product role exists. I mean, the product role exists since for forever. However, now we really created that structure in which you have an individual or multiple individuals in a company that are going to be focused on a single product so that they are not stretched in other parts of the business. And what they are going to do at the end of the day, they are going to have to understand and define the problems that they are facing with that product. They are going to need to understand user needs. That's going to be critical for them. Then they need to know their products and know the competition. That's one of the key parts that really doesn't exist with more
some bit of a business taste coming in there, right?
Exactly. They need to be able to do market studies and do a competitive analysis. And finally, while not being part of any team, they need to make everybody, register to their plan to the future. So you need to basically build authority via your why, not your title, because you're not a CEO, right? But you can build authority with your why. You're going to follow me because I'm going to do storytelling. Being good product managers are amazing storytellers.
Yeah.
I'm seeing somebody like Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, who was head of product for Microsoft before that, and who was a product manager before that. And when you listen to him, he sells you the dream. Like, he's really, really good at explaining, at all of that. You think about somebody like Steve Jobs was a product manager at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Jude wasn't a developer.
Yeah.
And wasn't a designer. Go on.
because we sometimes think he's a salesman, but he's actually a
No,
product manager
he
in a way,
is
because
absolutely.
I find like and I've seen it now, and I had a conversation yesterday with someone kind of in this field, and I feel like sometimes I feel like my background's a mess because of all the experiences, and you also arguably you're a bit more organized than me, but there's this broad set of influences, and I think that is the thing that makes this interesting for people like us, is that I feel like what I've learned in a couple of weeks now is like a product manager is not necessarily someone who has the depth, but more has the breadth of different perspectives, right? That's what you bring to the table, because like listening to you talking about the business of UNEMA, then talking about the culture of the country, because one of the things we also discussed a lot is like the culture of the team, because I mean, you didn't have teams in Poland, you didn't have teams in the States, you had people across the globe, but then specifically also people in Senegal, and their values and the way they want to work with you and the team is completely different. And perhaps you need to invest a bit more time, so it's there's this whole broad set of things that you need to consider as a product manager, right?
Exactly. That aspect, the people aspect of product management, to me is the most important. I'm a zealot when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I really like to emphasize that despite the technologist view of product manager, which is influenced by the fact that most product managers are recruited from engineering school. I will say most, if you check today, you go on LinkedIn and you research product managers jobs, they are going to require an MS in some background in technical expertise, because initially product managers were coming from that field. In the car industry, for example, this was so technical that you needed to know that school is going there and this is linked to a supply chain, and you couldn't just go out of business school whatsoever. In my case, the difference is that I worked professionally as a designer, I work professionally as a business guy, and I work professionally as a developer. So that helped me create empathy I know our life is terrible in all of those worlds, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, you can see you felt the pain.
I love that. I felt the pain. It's exactly the word.
Because unless you felt the pain, you don't know. You don't know.
So that's I believe what helped me, to naturally evolve towards that. And I have a lot of fun because it's a role that requires human interaction, but is not based on that. You see what I mean? It's not you're not HR, right? You come there with a goal. You don't, because you're not part of any team directly, you're not considered as a possible enemy. Enemy might be strong, but the politics in companies, and when you have people above you're not. People don't see you that way, so they are much more open. To discuss with you than discuss with your manager, which is weird in a way, but I
become
will
an
take
ally,
it.
not
Exactly. Yeah. I will take it. And then one of your role is to share that success. So you're not an harbinger of death, you're not from finance or whatsoever. Not saying that all finance people are harbinger of death.
We love you, finance guys. They're not even listening to this. They're counting money.
Actually, might.
Oh, worrying about money.
So it's been interesting. I've been doing recently some trainings. I did the product strategies course from Professor Galloway, Scott Galloway.
Yeah, you were. I wanted to ask you about it, but I don't want to dip into it because sometimes things are private. You don't want to put it on the www.
No, that's cool.
You say that you enjoyed that.
I loved it. That was one of my best learning experience. Probably my favorite online. Yeah, probably my favorite online learning experience ever. Yeah.
They've got a nice. I've been looking at their brand strategy thing. That because I've kind of touched a little bit of brand stuff in the last couple of weeks. My old kind of vibes, and I really enjoy that, because I think sometimes in even in the world of product, people forget about brand and the importance of brand, because brand is not just a logo, it's also what you stand for, what you
I
believe
mean,
in.
what is the
So
brand at the end of the day? The brand is the promise that you give to people about
yeah,
their interaction with your product. That's what you do. When you have a brand, you're basically, oh, I'm buying that, so I should experience this sort of.
yeah,
I'm buying Amazon. What is the brand promise of Amazon? I'm going to have my good fast. I'm going to be able, if there is any issue, it's going to be sorted out. I
yeah.
buy Hermes. What is? I mean, no. Let's not go in luxury.
No,
That's not my.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. Luxury is
Let's
a
not
whole
do that.
different. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Listen, John, there's something I wanted to ask you, right? Which is, it's kind of a bit of a side question, but I'm selfishly want to ask you this here. Damn it! I keep on forgetting to put my Siri on. Anyways, let's continue. It's annoying. But what I wanted to ask you selfishly, because it's a topic that's been coming up a few times, and we didn't have a chance to discuss it, and maybe it'll be valuable here, is the just looking at things a little bit from a UX perspective. So my background was like this. We had a UX team, and there's going to be a point to this. We had a UX team. They had their leadership. They, like there was a lead UX. You had researchers, all these different kind of roles, and they were a team. And then we had a development team. And then in some stages you will have people, and this is not consulting, but you had people going off and doing work for a client as a UXer, right? But then you also had projects where there's a development of a platform or e-commerce thing where you had a team that consists out of a Scrum Master, a developer, a UXer, and maybe a front-end guy, and then maybe a UI person, whatever, right? And I've spoken to a few people during the course of since we last recorded this, and they feels like, I mean, I thought we moved past it, but there's still a struggle to figure out how to set up those kind of teams. So, I mean, and I want to kind of dip into how you guys did it at Unema, because in a way, maybe I need to shut up and hand it over to you. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, how do you set up that team? Because, I mean, you've been a product manager, but I also felt like when we spoke, you also took care of the UX slash, design and interface guys. You took care of them from a manager perspective, but then also they had to slot into a agile kind of thing, or flow. Like, what kind of model did you guys take, like, to set this up, to make this work?
So it starts with documentation. I do believe that the onboarding experience is going to shape how somebody is going to understand your value or not. So I started basically I always created a lot of documentation, right? And that documentation, while it doesn't really sometimes make sense during meetings because people are like, oh, it's fresh in our head or whatsoever. When we had to onboard new folks, I was able to give them that kind of journal. It's like, your diary. Oh, this is the diary of the company.
Oh,
You're going to know all their secrets, what happened with that diary, and you will be up to speed. I really believe in journaling for products. I mean, journaling in life in general, but for products. It helps people to understand the choice you made so that they have their, it's like an FAQ, but for your product. So when we onboarded new folks, we had a lot of documentation to give them. So, to ease their entry in the company. I really liked that when I worked for corporations. They did have a lot of documentation, but let's be honest, it was more about stoking their own ego and telling how amazing they were and how, all of that, than the product you will be working on. Because that's normal, because they didn't have that. It's a team-related thing, and being in a startup allows you to create this sort of document. And then once that was done, at the height of it in my team, there were 4 folks. 3 internals, 2 externals. 5, sorry. So the 3 internals had, in addition to, retrospective and sprint planning and the standard agile stuff, had one-on-one with them, where the goal was not to talk about work. Like, it was dedicated time. If they wanted to talk about work, that's okay. There was some components.
So you split the work and the personal or professional improvement things.
Professional improvement. Yeah. It's exactly that. Because I wanted them to grow professionally. Because my belief in success is that you can succeed only if everybody around you is raised up. It's when everybody is raised up that you will be able to raise up. Not by, working on bodies of people and just, backstab your way. You can succeed like that. I mean, a lot of people succeed like that. But that's just the way it is. However, I do think there is a parallel, another way to do that. I was influenced by my own philosophical beliefs, if I can say that. Yeah. But also business folks. I'm thinking about the recently decided CEO of Marriott, who had that same philosophy in hotel management. That was somebody that really tried to, push people up. And he was one of the most loved CEO of companies in the US because of that. I'm thinking, and now I have... there are a few CEOs that really succeeded, that became billionaire without killing people, without pushing people to their maximum. I do believe that there is a model. Those people might not be in the news because typically they are not the ones that are going to do controversial stuff that's going to make the news, but they are still going to make money, right? And they are still going to succeed. So we had those meetings, and during those meetings, and I still have those meetings. I mean, it's not we have those meetings. And during those meetings, I asked them to basically, what are your issues right now, at work or in life? And I see if I can help, thanks to my experience or thanks to the books that I'm reading. So we do a lot of, it's kind of a book club with multiple people at this point. Wow, and we exchange books, we exchange advice. I am able to give them my opinion, and I feel comfortable. Tell me.
Would you say that this role that you're playing to nurture the team, is that a product manager role, or is it a head of the design team role?
No, it's more. I'm head of platform for that thing. Yeah. So that's more head of role. I want people to grow professionally, especially in our context. There is something that Peter Thiel says that I really like.
You like quoting him, right? And he's like one of your he's not one of your favorite people in the world, but you quite like to quote.
He's not one of my favorite people, but he's brilliant. What can I say? He's using his brilliance for ways that I will not agree.
No, I also unfortunately refer to him a lot. Yeah.
But he has this. He had the gift to. There is some stuff. There is some stuff wrong, but I'm not going to quote that, obviously. But the right stuff, I have no issues to quote it. He's talking about startups, and he's saying that it's very any point of working with people that you don't enjoy at the end of the day. So you should make sure that the people you work with are people you are going to enjoy, spend time together. Now. One way big difference between Peter Thiel and I is that the way, not only him, but all the Hacker News crowd, the way they see it is that I need to find people that are exactly like me, who like Tolkien, and I like Tolkien, okay? But who are those like very 80s ways in the Bay Area, so that I don't have to do any effort for them to become friends, right? I'm coming from a very different background from him. I'm a Creole. What we call by Creole is that I have no idea of my ancestry, because part of it was Indian immigrants, part of it, most of it was African slaves, and a tiny part of it were colonizers, right, who went their way. So when I grew up, I am extremely lucky to have not. You had to mesh with everybody else.
Yeah.
You didn't even think about it. It was just the way it was. We weren't. So
It's
when
actually interesting. We never spoke about it. Like, it is interesting. You kind of have this in your DNA, like having a broader kind of acceptance and ability to connect.
A quarter of my family is Indian. Like they are Hinduist and they were not anymore, but Indian. Part of my family is white. Part of my family is very black. So
I want to see one of your family parties, bro. That must be crazy.
Even more than that, they don't have the same religions all over.
Yeah.
So those barriers and they were not born and raised with, more importantly, other than that, because raised, whatever. But more importantly, they don't have the same culture. Yeah. And still, they work together. I saw that model, working all my life. I saw people from different culture, religion, ethnic background work together and not even raise those issues. So what happens in the Silicon Valley is that they want clones of themselves. And I will say in banking, it's pretty much the same. You basically want people different, but the same inside, kind of.
Yeah,
right?
It's
corporations. This is capitalism in corporations. You want to create that stuff. And me, because
cloning equals scaling, right? So if I can clone, if I can have 5 Jonathans, it means I can do more, which is not actually true in the sense of innovation, right?
It's not.
It's very I think we'll go there, but I think this is also something that happens in Central Europe, and we actually attended an event together where one of the university professors in Poland actually spoke about it. I can't remember his name now, but he said that is a huge barrier to further innovation within in Central Europe is the fact that, when you sit around the table, you have many of yourself around the table. People with the same culture, same color of skin, same kind of language. And even for me on a whole different track, I'm doing all these design tool videos on LinkedIn and going crazy. And fundamentally, dude, most of the tools, if you really go to the core of what they're trying to do to help people be creative, is to try and make a new connection in the mind, because we have this propensity, because it's also easier for your brain to think the same way all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's less energy to, to do certain things in the way that I speak or whatever. It's much harder for me to speak a bit more intelligible and use better words, because I just sound like a crazy South African. But you use these tools to try and knock your brain out of this kind of, there's a better word that I'm not getting onto here, but the set ways of thinking. And I think talking about what you're saying and bringing this mixture of perspectives into the room, which sounds great, but we're not doing it. And, empowering more female and bringing these things together is going to make you produce better products.
Yeah, I strongly believe in that. I'm saying, my team, we had folks from Poland, we're Christian Polish folks. My team in Senegal is African Muslim. The managers, one of them is American. And it still worked really well because you focus on what creates togetherness and not on what is different. And once you focus on that togetherness and you realize, they do the same, everybody is the same. We all have 99% of what we do is the same stuff, and we all focus on the 1% of difference. Yeah. And it worked well. I believe that it seems that I can manage teams thanks to my ability to recognize that,
you need to be switched on to
listen to them. I think it's listening at the end of the day. It's being it's listening, respecting their experience, we're expecting what they have to bring to the table, and being like everybody might be smarter than me. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So sit down, listen, try to learn from them. If you have something to give them, help them. Sometimes you just need to listen. Very often you just need to listen. Being as a board, a reflection. I don't know how to call that, and that's enough. I know I have still contact with people I stopped to work with for almost a year, and it's still
That says
fantastic.
a lot. That says a lot, right? Like your team's still connected with you, and you've built relationships beyond just the product.
So yeah, I will say, to come back to your previous question, if it's a job of, I think PM should have part of that, because when you're a PM, you need people to follow you. In a way, you need people to believe. You don't want engineers to be like, oh, he doesn't know shit anyway. He doesn't understand us anyway. Or he's not understanding, what does he know about the product. I have a good example about that. I was working on that product for the bank, for BBH at that time. And you had that case study. And it was a project management tool that we built internally. And we had the developers who were not convinced, to say the least, about the utility of that tool. So how did we create empathy? I booked their time, put some cookies, and I sit them in a room, and I demonstrated how people are using the product right now. And this changed them, because then I was able to create empathy, and they realized that at the end of the tool, there is a human being that is struggling. And once you create that connection, they don't do the same job. They're like, there is a mission. I might work for a faceless capitalist company, but there are still human beings inside the company, and they still struggle, and they still have a life, and they have a face.
And also the other thing is also, which is important, is that you as a human being, as a designer, developer, or whatever, is also doing something. So it's up to you. And we spoke about it right in the beginning. It's like, what are you personally doing? Arguably not all of us designing the next insurance application is thinking that we're going to change the world. However, your own contribution might not be appreciated by your boss, but your own contribution is still your own contribution. And you're putting your name on that, and you're adding that in. And I think if you have the ability to show people that their contribution means something, that is already a step in the right direction.
You just said something that is brilliant about your own contribution and not referring to your boss. If you do your job based on what is going to be seen well by your boss, you might have a good career. You will never feel fulfilled. That's it might be different. For some people, money and financial success is the main thing. So, hey, power to you, people. Yeah. However, what I'm seeing right now is a ton of people between 40 and 50s and even 60s, or even even older than that, being like, I wanted to learn that skill, or I wanted to do that stuff, but to get to management or to do that, I will. Yeah, you made your choice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You exchange something for something.
Another thing I would also say, and this is probably the toughest thing, because there's also arrogance in our industry sometimes, is also to realize that sometimes your contribution might not be recognized, right? But the thing is, the important thing that I feel, and this is coming from an ad man who's done the same campaign 7 times. I mean, we had these cycles of selling a credit card every year at a certain period of time. And, of course, the results gets measured. But the thing is, I knew that for the first 2 years I was annoyed. But then I started thinking, okay, cool, what is going to be my contribution in the 3rd year? What is going to be the different contribution in the 4th year? And no one really kind of spotted the contribution or cared about the contribution, but you know what? I learned something from that contribution. If I tweak something, what happens? I mean, I'm not documenting anywhere. I'm just seeing what that contribution does, how it affects, no one cares. No one says, hey, little pat on the head, well done, Werner. But that contribution is actually what allows me to become more experienced, get insight, and that's the growth aspect.
I think I did a mistake. I was a little too negative just earlier when I expressed that feeling. I'm going to try to fix that because you just put me on the right track.
I don't know, John.
No, it's what you do is you need to celebrate your personal success, even if others don't see them, and feeling bad about it. You should. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, I did that for 30 years, so it's very difficult to tell to other people over a podcast, don't feel bad. However, there will be a point, I promise, there will be a point if you do that exercise within you of recognizing your work, where you will realize all the contribution you did to your own skill set, to your own well-being at the end of the day. And you will realize also that the joy is in the journey.
Exactly, dude. And I think that is a great way to end this session. I think we could speak even more, and hopefully we'll actually start getting the show back up. I think there's a lot of questions around this world that we can explore more, and we can discuss that. But we wanted to just pop into the feed, say, hey, we're still alive. We're still rocking and rolling. Jono is changing some stuff up. I'm trying to be Mr. Livestream guy and Tim the Tool Man on LinkedIn and having fun and getting input from Jono. Jono, perhaps just before you go, what's next? And also we need to add all this stuff to the show notes. There's a few topics we need to just add to the things. Your articles and your training, and perhaps where people can go watch the video where you talk about your NEMA itself. You really dip into the kind of, I think that would be a valuable thing to watch from that perspective. But what are you up to next, dude? What's happening?
Right now I'm doing some mainly design freelancing, which is pretty cool. Not what I want to do long term, but it's enjoyable and it pays the bills, so why not? Aside of that, continue to read and more about learn about building amazing products. So I did that certification. I'm reading, you can see behind me a few product books.
You need to dip because you show me new books every time I talk to you. So start reading them, damn it.
I do. I just buy new ones. That's the thing. And
keep on piling up.
And yeah, I'm spending a lot of time. One of my 2021 objective is to spend more time on doing my favorite hobby, which is reading fiction books. So I've been starting on a very good rhythm. I recommend. I wanted to tell you that actually you need to read Educated. You absolutely need to read that book. It's
link in the show notes.
It's a transformative book. We will discuss about that offline. It's probably the best book I read for the last 5 years.
Nice. I always take up your recommendations.
Amazing.
I do.
Amazing.
They're always really spot on.
Tara Westover, Educated. Yeah, so that's it. So I'm reading, studying, and I'm doing some freelance stuff, and we'll see what lives push me next. The good thing is that I'm in a good place, so that's probably the most important.
And that's why we did this episode. We should call it The Good Place. Just once again, my name is Werner Puchert. My friend is Jonathan Gull. You've listened to a snippet, a taste of my little project called Finding Frequency. I messed up the name there. Where I try and record something every day because I'm on the same mission as Jonathan. I'm trying to see the good in this crazy world. So you can find me there if this is the kind of stuff you want to listen to, but perhaps not. Then this has been Block Thinking with Werner Puchert and Jonathan Gull. You can find us on Anchor, where we currently live. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, where I do more content, and I want to invite you to join me there because I need more audience members. Jonathan is the only one at the moment there, so please go and
that's
follow.
not true.
And
There are a lot of people there. Come on.
so that'll be cool. And then also, Jonathan, I hope that we'll be back again, because I think there's a lot of questions that still needs to be touched on, and they're starting to resurfacing now in this new world that we're living in with all its new complexities. And perhaps we can bring some friends on to talk about that a little bit when we are ready. But let's wrap this up, because I want to continue for 2 more hours talking and flapping lips, but we need to earn some money so we can pay the rent.
Right.
Jonathan, thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Ciao.
you.